An Existential Crisis, a Dog, and a Missing Roommate. By zyzyx. It was such an ordinary day when Rex walked into my office that I don't really remember anything else about the day. Rex was a service dog. His speciality was helping those prone to panic attacks. He had short curly brown hair, dark brown eyes, and a happy-go-lucky disposition. What made up for the cuteness and intelligence, he lacked in discipline. Rex was content to stay by his master's side only so long as he was being scratched. As soon as the personalized physician attention stopped, Rex moved on to something else to entertain himself with. I must admit, I offered more distractions, in the form of treats and scratches, than is good for a working service animal. I often chide myself as I'm a professional who should know better, but Rex is so poorly suited for a role as a service animal, it was hard to think of him as one. As a psychologist, I should write more about my patient, but I simply don't remember a thing about him. My amnesia is so complete that to say him is a little presumptuous. My patient is much like a clean spot left behind in the dust. There's a hole clearly demonstrating that something once occupied that space, but precious few clues about what it was. I have records of seeing a patient, notes of our sessions, a billing address, and Rex to prove it really happened, but nothing specific. Perhaps I should start with what I do, as it's impossible to prove a negative. To me, my notes are the most damning evidence, so that is where I chose to begin. My patient was new. He came seeking a prescription letter for an emotional support animal to help the patient cope with anxiety and delusions. My patient exclaimed that he kept noticing odd things about his home that made him feel uneasy. He began relating his tale with coming home one day announcing, "Honey, I'm home." He was greeted by Rex, but for reasons he could not articulate, he expected another response. As he entered the kitchen, he noticed that Rex's food and water dishes had gone empty. He loudly exclaimed that it was not his turn to feed this dog, but he lived alone. Who else's job could it be? My patient went on to prepare dinner, catching himself preparing it for more than one person several times. He described it as though he were expecting guests. My patient packed the remainder of his meal, clearly labeling it with his name. Confused, they blamed the coincidence on college habits, as he had only recently graduated. My patient claimed that these déjà vu moments grew steadily worse. As the days since the initial incident, he began to notice more and more things that he simply could not explain in the apartment. The patient has just renewed his lease on the 3-bedroom apartment, showing that he lived there for at least a year, but could not explain why he had 3 bedrooms and he lived alone. The client related that he made an appointment when he discovered that not only were all 3 bedrooms furnished, but that he was not living in the master suite. The patient could not remember over what time period he discovered these revelations, only that they did not come all at once. He said that these events made him question his sanity, but that he could not doubt the evidence of his eyes. For at least the last year, he had roommates. There were complete furniture sets, clothing that could not fit him, and personal items that did not belong to him, but despite his frantic searches, he could not find any identifying information about who these people were. Exhausted from worry, he fell asleep petting the puppy. In the morning, he realized that he was wholly unfamiliar with the dog, and inspected his name tag. That was when he realized the dog's name is Rex. Looking for myself, I read beneath the name, "I'm glad you're not a cat." Rex has no city license tag, no proof of immunization. I made a note to take Rex to the vet to have this dealt with after my patient left. They ended our time for the session, relating to me the tale of the final straw that drove him to my office. My patient left for work that morning, but never arrived. He has no memory of what happened between when he shut the door and when he heard Rex scratching for his potty break that afternoon. My patient frankly called work claiming to be too sick to attend and was informed not to return without a doctor's note. It took a few days to work him in, and he claims that over these days he has no memory of the time spent outside the dog's presence. only missing blocks of time. To my patient, the most worrying part of this is the missing blocks of time, including doing chores or simply times when he was not doing necessary chores such as cooking. My patient simply could not account for any period of time when he was not entertaining Rex since that night. He worried himself to sleep. While I could not make a full diagnosis based on a single session, I did provide him with the requested letter for an emotional support animal, as well as a suggestion on where he could acquire a suitable companion. The man thanked me profusely and walked out of my office forever. I only realized what had happened when I woke up in my office the following morning, absently stroking Rex, who had curled up in my lap. In a flurry, I looked over my notes and replayed the recordings of our session. The recording picked up a few of my questions and the scratching of my pencil, as if I were talking to myself. The notes were filled with the meticulous shorthand, but there were empty spaces where any identifying information about the patient should be. I called my secretary to review the contact details for my last patient. She checked and profusely apologized that she failed to record the details on my calendar. She promised to review my files and fill in the missing information. I told her I was suddenly not feeling well and asked that she reschedule my appointments for the day and then go home early herself. She wished me to get well soon and is doing as I asked whilst I type this. I don't know what will become of me. I only know it's too late to warn her. I realize too late that I require 2 hands to type these notes, while my secretary only needs to work one for the phone. The other is absently stroking Rex in her lap. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. And if you're an animal lover like me, please consider donating to the World Land Trust, a charity that aims to help wildlife through buying land, preventing development, and helping endangered species.